Welcome to the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila and I am your host. In this podcast, I invite people to tell their stories of their travels, hobbies, and passions. These podcasts are also now available on my All About You YouTube channel. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story. Welcome to the All About You podcast. And today my guest is Nina, and she's a creative business coach. Nina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Now, Nina, can you introduce yourself so that we can know a little bit more about you?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Nina Eggens. I'm originally from the Netherlands, although I haven't lived there for a long time. I lived in Scotland for 12 years until 2018, and then we moved to Spain. And yeah, I've always worked in the creative sector. I'm a creative at heart. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a singer in a band. I paint. I write. But most of my career, I've worked with creatives, supporting them, helping them to promote their work. I've worked in the cultural sector, both in the Netherlands and in Scotland. And yeah, so I love working in the cultural sphere and helping bring the best out of people. And here in Spain, when I first moved here, I first started as a copywriter, because I do that too at times. And then during the pandemic, I kind of pivoted and started my business as a creative business coach.
Well, I am so glad you're here because I have no idea what a creative business coach is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with that. Let's unpick, what is a creative business coach?
Well, I think we all know what a business coach is, or a business and marketing coach. And a lot of people who start their businesses, their small businesses, they look for help. They might have an enormous passion, an enormous drive to do what they want to do, whether that is being a life coach, whether that is starting a shop, whether that is baking cakes, whether that is walking dogs, whether that is whatever it is that you're passionate about, which is fine. But a lot of people lack the marketing skills. They don't know how to put themselves out there online. They don't know how to get clients. And a lot of business coaches online especially, they're very much about corporate, they're very salesy, they're very, they talk about sales targets, they talk about goals, it's all very jargony. I started my business because I am passionate about helping the small businesses, whether they are creatives or artists or coaches or they start their online shops or whatever it is they do. I'm passionate about helping them with their marketing and their businesses and setting them up, helping them, to get their first clients and giving them the confidence that they can actually earn money doing what they love. And I think with my background in marketing in the creative sector, I understand the creative brain inside out because I am one. So that makes me different from your average business coach. Because a lot of business coaches, they come from the corporate world. So they understand what it is to reach your sales targets and to earn a lot of money. But a lot of people like myself, like expats here as well, they start to reinvent themselves. They start their own businesses. They don't necessarily have this enormous ambition to become a millionaire. They just want to earn money doing what they love. And your average business coach, they don't really get that often. So that's where I come in. And so I understand where they're coming from because I've been through it myself. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm an expat. I've moved countries twice. I know what it is to build up the confidence to start a business. I know what it is to have a head full of ideas and not knowing what to focus on first. And my clients who come to me, they all have that problem with chaos in the brain, overwhelm, not knowing where to start with online marketing especially. And because I have that experience, both in marketing, copywriting, setting up a small business, bricks and mortar and online, I have a lot of skills and experience to share that with people. So I do similar things as any business coach, setting goals and looking at what kind of income you're looking for, who your ideal client is, what you want to achieve with your business. So I have similar tactics and methods to help them. I am the creative behind it. I understand the creative passion behind it. So I am a little bit more like them. less scary, perhaps less confusing. I don't use jargon. I don't go into, you need to be salesy on your sales call. You need to convince this client to buy from you, because I don't do that. I hate that sort of approach. So that is what I do as a creative business coach. And I've called my company that, the Creative Business Coach, to get that bit of creative in there. And it appeals to a lot of people, because small entrepreneurs, small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, they often come from a creative drive. They might have had a career in corporate for years, and they finally feel that it's their time. It's often people who are midlife, 40s, 50s, and people who've moved countries who go like, and now it's my time. Now I want to do what I want to do and what I've always wanted to do. And that is what I help them with.
I think this is absolutely fascinating, because I can understand what you're saying. If you have a coach that in the corporate world, it's all about making money, pushing targets, budgets, quite sort of hardcore. Creative people tend to be quite soft. So they're making things with their hands, maybe jewellery, they're doing art, or they're writing, creating something. They just tend to be a little bit softer in character. Mm-hmm. And I understand what you're saying, the meeting of those two worlds to try and push a creative forward in a business, it would scare me half to death.
Yeah.
And having somebody who has got that background, you are a creative, so you understand they're probably not about making a huge amount of money. They just want to enjoy their passion. But if they can make some money from that, then that's great. But they're not, I want to be a millionaire in 5 years.
If that happens, fantastic. And I do have clients who have gone on to make like thousands of pounds or dollars a month, which is amazing. It is absolutely possible. But I also have clients who choose to start small. You can't expect to make a full-time income straight away when you start a small creative business. It's just reality. So a lot of my clients who come to me, they lots of ambition. They want to have an online course. They want to have lots of clients. They want to have a full-time income. And it puts so much pressure on themselves. And what I often say is, you can start a creative business in a million different ways. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping a small part-time job on the side to keep the income coming in while you are starting and building and growing your creative business on the side. So I often help my clients to create a structure in their week, to create a good balance in their life, so that they don't feel so overwhelmed. They don't feel so much pressure of, I've now given everything up. I don't have a steady income. And now I have to make enough money to make this work, because all eyes are on me. Often they have partners who go like, what are you doing? How is this going to work? So they feel this guilt, this like, I have to make this work, otherwise I fail. So I try to look at all the options that they have, because often they have lots of skills. Some might still work in employment, but maybe they can organize that they go down a day so they have more time to grow their business. And others they don't have a part-time job, and they just start in the evening, or they start small. But it's all possible. It is possible to earn money with doing what you love. Starting a business, whether it's a creative business or any type of business, it's a marathon. It's not a race. You've got to be in it for the long run. You can't make much money overnight. You've got to be committed. You've got to put in the work. And what's very important is that you have a structure in place, and you know what you're doing. You've got a plan. You've got a game plan. And that is often where people go wrong. A lot of creatives, they start their business and they're trying to do it all by themselves, because they don't want to spend too much money on anything else, on training or a coach or whatever. And they try and figure it all out by themselves, but they don't have the marketing knowledge. So they look online frantically for tips and advice and all sorts of things. And then they get stuck, and then they give up. And that's a shame, because I really believe in making the world a better place, a more beautiful place, with all these grassroots, passionate little businesses. And what I really love here in Spain as well is that a lot of these expat businesses, they help each other, they support each other, they buy from each other. So it's important for me to support them, so that they feel confident that they can actually do it.
I think the interesting thing here, let's take for example someone who wants to create jewellery.
Mm-hmm.
They've probably got 1,001 ideas in their brain what they want to make. I want to make this, I want to use these materials, which is fantastic. But then it comes to, how am I going to get my product out into the world? Well, I don't know anything about social media. I don't know enough people to sell things to. And as you say, if they're trying to do that alongside a job which gives them an income to pay the bills, which I can understand is absolutely the right way, having somebody to say, you've got the ideas in your brain, but we need to see, there's making the jewellery, but how are you actually going to get that out in the world to sell it? And they're probably, I haven't the faintest idea. And particularly, as you say, if you're dealing with people a little bit older who are maybe not into social media, because social media is huge as a means of getting your brand out there, getting your product out there, reaching customers basically globally, which you wouldn't have had access to. So it's a huge arena for people to go into.
It is, and it can be very overwhelming, especially if you've only ever used social media to stay in touch with friends. But doing it for your business is a different ballgame. And what I often say to people who feel a bit wobbly about the whole social media thing is, don't be on all platforms. You don't have to have a LinkedIn, a Facebook, a TikTok, a YouTube, and an Instagram account, right? Choose something that you like doing, that you like being on, that comes natural to you. Like for you, it's a podcast. You love doing podcasts, so do more of it. Somebody might like writing blog posts, do more of that. Somebody might like making short videos and showing their work like that, do more of that. And the other thing, secondly, it's very important, that's one of the first things I look at with my clients, is who are you trying to reach? Because you might be on LinkedIn, but if your jewelry audience is on Instagram, then you're on the wrong platform. So you've got to ask yourself these two questions. Where does the joy lie? And where is your audience? And who is your audience? So if your audience, say you're making jewelry, and your audience is like a woman in their 30s and 40s who's got a little bit of money to spend and who likes a particular type of jewelry, the type that you're making, where are these people? Where do they hang out? Are they in Facebook groups? Are they on Instagram? And how do you reach them? What type of content resonates with them? Because that's the other thing you always have to ask yourself is, okay, we're talking about jewelry here now, but say you're a life coach. What type of life coach are you? Who are you helping? What are you helping them with? So it's very important to get that message right. Like if you are a life coach that helps, say, women in the menopause, what problems do they go through? What are they struggling with? What is their current reality? Now, those types of questions are the things that they want help with and that you can help them with. And to start, or before you get them as clients, you've got to build a relationship with them. And you can do that through social media by creating content that contains that message. So you can give them tips, you can share videos and explain about how you help them. You can share examples of how you maybe got through it yourself. You can share examples of how you've helped other clients like them. So they go like, yes, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly what I'm going through. I'm going to follow this person because this is really valuable to me. Now, it can take quite a while before they actually click buy. People might never buy from you. But some people might go like, I've been looking for a life coach forever. And there's so many out here online, but this one talks to me. This one speaks to me. So various techniques then to try and draw them into your world. Maybe add them to a mailing list if they want to, or maybe try and share something, a free workshop that you can offer to that group of women so that they get excited about working with you.
I love that bit. Really, it's about finding your tribe. Who is my target audience for my jewellery or for my product? But you, as being a creative and having the marketing background, you know the right questions to ask.
Yes.
And in my mind, as you were speaking, I'm thinking, how would I answer that question? And this is the problem half the time, isn't it? When we're in the middle of our projects, whether you're making jewellery, whether you're writing, whether it's a podcast, we are in our little bubble and we're busy doing our things in our bubble. But for somebody to ask you the right question and you think, ooh, I really don't know the answer to that. Let me think about that one. That's when the magic happens.
It is. And a lot of creatives, especially makers and designers and artists, they don't think about the business side of things first. They think about making something beautiful, which is obvious that that's what they do. But if you're only making stuff and never sell anything, it is a hobby. If you want to turn that into a business, you've got to think about your audience and the people that you want to sell to. And you've got to kind of, put your own passion and your own focus aside a little bit and go like, okay, what's in it for them? Why would they buy from me? What is their need? And how can I offer something that taps into that need?
So you're literally putting yourself into the mind of your potential customer, your potential client, and go, okay, what is it I would want? And then what can you provide? So you're almost having to be two people. You are the supplier, plus you are the target person. Okay, what is it I like about this person's blog post? What is it I like about this person's podcast?
Yeah.
This is the thing, you're asking the right questions.
That's the idea of a coach, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think particularly as we've both said, if you're creative, that's all you want to do, is you want to create.
Yeah.
Jewellery, writing, a podcast, we're all creating. I don't think of myself as a content creator at all. But I guess I'm creating something and putting it out there. But I don't think of myself like that. So I guess it's changing your mindset.
It is. And like I say, if you just want to make jewellery for the sake of it and you don't care about selling it, yes or no, that's fine. But then it's not a business. But if you want to turn it into a business and you want to create some income from it, you've got to think about these things. Otherwise, there's no point. You know, you're always going to be dabbling in, you know, selling something at craft markets and a little bit here and there. And it's, you know, you might make a few tenors a month, but that's it. But if you want to create more than that, then you've got to ask yourself these questions, and you've got to look at the basic structure of a marketing plan, which is exactly what a corporate business coach would do. Only that I come from the creative background myself. So I don't look at sales targets and, you know, I'm probably a bit less scary. It's the same ethos. How do you turn your creative passion into a creative business?
And there's one thing I wanted to cover. You said a few minutes ago, a lot of people when they're starting their business, they try to be everything. They're creating their jewellery. We're going back to that example again. But they're trying to do the accounts, they're trying to take the stuff to the post office, they're trying to keep on top of social media, reply to comments, questions, etc. And one of the things that always comes out with people who have created a business, they say, what is the number one thing you would change? And a lot of the time it comes out, I would either ask for help or get help sooner.
Yeah.
They tend to try and do apps, you know, I am the marketing, the finance, the supply, public relations, I am absolutely everything. And it gets to a point where they're almost having a nervous breakdown and they're spending all their time, unfortunately not on the creative and the passion that they started with.
Yeah.
They're too busy running all the various departments.
And then they get to a burnout and they stop.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example. Back in Scotland, after I had just had my first baby, I always had this dream to set up my own business. And at that particular point, I wanted to set up a shop. I started a bricks and mortar vintage furniture shop in rural Aberdeenshire, which was a challenge in itself. But I started out with so much passion and it was exactly that. I didn't want to spend much money. It was all on a shoestring budget. I found the cheapest unit I could find. I sourced all my furniture myself. So I drove myself crazy, literally. I drove around the Shire, sourcing all of my pieces. Then I did them all up myself. Then I did all the photography and the styling of these pieces. Put them all online myself. I advertised it myself. I wrote all the blog posts myself. I did all the accounts myself. I did all the deliveries myself. Sometimes I hired somebody if it was too big, but usually I also delivered myself. And I had a baby.
My mind's exploding just thinking about it.
And it was like, I loved it. I loved having that shop, and it taught me so much, the early years of entrepreneurship, figuring it all out myself. But I was exhausted. Now, unfortunately, 4 years later, that shop burned down, which was almost like symbolic for myself, because I was really at my end, at the end of my energy. And there was a big fire in that building. One of the units was mine that completely got burned to the ground. And I lost all of my stock, which is one of the reasons why we end up moving abroad, because other things happened in our life in that same year, which kind of, I'm not religious, but I did think like, well, there's something above here.
Something's giving you a sign.
I'm getting a sign here. And but the crux of the matter was I did everything myself. If I had invested earlier, either in a coach or an accountant or somebody to do the marketing for me, I would have had more time and more energy, and I probably would have lasted longer.
Let's talk through, let's say, for example, I'm a jewellery designer and I come to you and say, I've made all these pieces, I've sold a few to family and friends, I think I want to take it to the next level. What would our initial conversation be about?
I would want to know where you want to take the business. How big do you want it to be? What is your goal? Where do you see this business in 1 year time? Maybe in 5 years time? Do you want to have like an online empire, perhaps on one of these creative platforms like Etsy, for example? Say you want to sell lots of jewelry on Etsy. Okay, right, that's your goal. Ask, have you got an Etsy shop already? No, I haven't. Okay, let's have a look at how we set this up. Now, fine, if you have an online shop, how do you get traffic to that? We look at that. Where are we going to get the clients from? You can use various online tools for that. For Pinterest is a big one. A lot of women are on Pinterest. How can you connect those two platforms so that you drive more traffic? Also, how can we use social media to create a brand, to create a buzz around your jewelry? Can we use videos? Can you talk about it? Why do you make this? How do you make this? What inspires you? Where do you get your materials from? Maybe you can create some videos showing how you make it. Take people on a journey so they get excited about it, so they can see it's something handmade that you have made with love, instead of, you've ordered it from China and you're selling it on. It's trying to get that story, that personal story. I'm all about authentic marketing as opposed to aggressive, old-fashioned marketing. And the authentic marketing is all about storytelling. It's about sharing your personal passion, sharing your story, being human. And when it comes to art, jewelry, design, anything that somebody sets up with a lot of love and passion, you have to bring out that human side. You can't just post photos of your jewelry and then hope for the best. It's got to be a bit more than that to get people excited to buy from you.
And I think the interesting thing you said there, I should imagine people that are doing their passion, their drawing, their painting, are like, the hope for the best. It'll be fine. But if you want to actually start making money, you've got to think about, my marketing. And I love the fact, what is the human story behind it? So if somebody has created a piece of jewellery with their hands, why do they do that? What started them on that road of making jewellery? And that's what's going to make the difference, isn't it? Because with something creative, it's generally made with love. And to know that person's personal story of how they got into the painting or the jewellery, and as you say, the video showing them doing the painting, it's just a brilliant idea.
And that is worth paying for. Because if you, for example, a painting, people go like, oh, that's expensive to buy this piece of art. But imagine, you put this painting on the wall and you know the story of the artist, you know how long they've worked on it, you know the story behind it, you know the materials, you know the inspiration behind it. You've seen it being produced online because you've watched the videos and you've got it on the wall. That is amazing, because when people come into your house and they go like, oh, that's a beautiful painting, you know the story behind it, and you buy a ready-made print that another 3,000 people have on the wall. What are you going to say about it? People say like, oh, that's a nice print, and you say, yeah, I bought it in El Corte Inglés. That's it.
Yeah. And I guess that's the same, going back to jewellery. That's a really nice piece of jewellery, Sheila. Where did you buy that? No, actually, I'll tell you the story of this piece of jewellery. And then you can tell that story and then, wow, that's let me find out about this person.
Yeah. And I think in this day and age where everything is so mass produced and people have lost connection with themselves, with nature, with handmade things, with anything that is real, it's very important to go into that direction when it comes to marketing your creative business, because people are longing for that. They're longing for realness. We've been bombarded for the past 50 years with consumerism, and it's all more. And I think this is my own ethos, my own values. I like things to be soulful and have a story. That's why I started my vintage furniture shop. I was selling items with a story. I got so much joy out of clients coming into my shop looking for a piece, and then I would say like, oh, this cupboard, I got it from this old lady, and she got it on her wedding day, and it pained her to sell it, but she was downsizing, and I promised her that I would find a good home for it. And now it's going to this young family that are going to love it for the next 30 years or whatever. And it's that realness, the story, the human side of business that I love.
I wonder if this has stemmed back from the pandemic, where we all had a lot of time on our hands because we weren't going anywhere. And talking to people I've met, a lot of people have said, I've got back in being more creative. And I think it was a case we couldn't really go anywhere, so we had to work with what we had in our homes. So a lot of people dug out their colouring pencils. I did that. I got into watercolour painting. People got into writing stories. Whether it was that period of time and we all thought, what can I do to feel better? And often when you're creating, whether it's drawing, painting, knitting, cooking, whatever, it makes us feel better. We feel a bit more nurtured. It's therapy. We feel nurtured. Maybe we feel in control of something. Have you found this in your creative business, that all of a sudden a lot of people after the pandemic seem to be, I need to create, I need to make?
Yes. When you're in the rat race and everything's hunky-dory, and, you just go to your job and everything's running, and then suddenly everything comes to a stop, you realize what's missing. Well, I think a lot of people, they came to a halt and they started asking themselves very valuable questions. Who am I? I went through that myself. I was a copywriter until then. Suddenly a whole load of clients fell away. And I was like, what am I actually doing? Is this what I enjoy? Is this me? Is this me, or am I just doing something because I want to earn money and, this is what I can do? And I started asking myself questions. Who am I at my core being? What makes me tick? What am I passionate about? And that's when for myself also the ball started rolling. Like, I enjoy being surrounded by creatives and helping creatives, bringing out the best in them, giving them the confidence that they can do what they were made to do. A lot of people, they're creative as a child, and then their parents say like, no, you can't make a career out of that, darling. Go and study law. They become a lawyer, which is fine, and they don't regret that. But that little spark keeps nibbling at them. Like, but they never have time. And then suddenly during the pandemic, everything came to a stop. And then, like you say, you get the coloring pencils out because you couldn't go out anyway. And then it's like, I actually really enjoy this. What am I doing in my law bit? I don't want to be a lawyer. Always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be a life coach. I've always wanted to be a writer. And then suddenly they usually, including myself, you go in through a bit of a panic because it shakes you up. I think during the pandemic, a lot of people got shaken up. Like, who am I? What am I doing here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then it's scary. It's scary when suddenly these questions come and you have to face the reality of who you are inside, and what are you going to do with it? You can either ignore it, but then often this is so big inside of you, this flame is, getting bigger and bigger, that you've got to do something with it. Yeah, I've seen several clients of mine come to me with exactly that. They were like, well, up to the pandemic I was doing this, and then I just decided to pack it all in and really go for the thing I always wanted to do. I think the pandemic, it was a horrible period, but for a lot of people, it really started the inner work. It started the little engine, like, okay, what is life about? What am I here for? I've got another 30, 40 years, 50 years to go. What am I going to do with my life? Do I want to sit in an office 9 to 5, or am I going to give this a good go?
Yeah. I think the thing with the pandemic is basically it gave us all a bit of space and a bit of time. And I do appreciate people were working from home, kids online. It had a whole...
It was crazy.
It was crazy. But a lot of people said it actually gave me the time and space to actually think, what gives me joy?
Yeah.
What do I miss? And as you say, a lot of us got creative. And I found it was just so relaxing. I don't claim to be a professional at doing anything, messing about with paint and etc. But it was giving yourself that time to play. Mm-hmm. And as an adult, we just don't.
We don't give ourselves that time.
Absolutely. You say, we're in, the work, the kids, the home, the family commitments.
Yeah.
And sort of getting back to the creative thing, people were baking the bread, they were the colouring, they were the painting, making, upcycling. It's absolutely genius. And I wonder if that has created this new wave of people. Okay, I'm actually enjoying this, and I've actually done some quite good pieces, and I gave a piece to my sister and she absolutely loved it, and okay, maybe I can do something.
And then it's the next step. Then it's either you keep that as a hobby on the side and you go back to your old ways, there's nothing wrong with that if you choose that. But there are some people who go like, you know what, I'm going to give this a really good go because I think there's something there and I want to do that. And yeah, that's where I come in. Then I say like, okay, that's fine. But how are you going to get where you want to be? How are you going to make this work? Because if you're just going to keep dabbling into it and, sell a few pieces to your sister-in-law, that's not going to turn into a business. If you're really serious about it, then you've got to make a plan.
So you've sat down with your creative person and you sort of mapped out, okay, they've answered the questions, okay, this is my plan. If I can make an extra £200 a month, I'm okay with that, and let's see where that goes. So you've introduced them to social media, they've got it in their mind who their target audience is. What would happen? Would you sort of check in with them every month and sort of see how things are going?
Well, I have a few different things that I do with people. I have 3 kind of offers, if you like. One is a 6-month program, which is obviously gives you the biggest accountability and the biggest transformation if you've really committed to making it work. So that would mean a weekly Zoom call of an hour. So then we would start with making a plan, setting goals. And then as the weeks and the months progress, I check in with them every week and we talk about what they've implemented, what they're struggling with. They might have tried something that didn't work. We look at why it didn't work, tweak it. I push them out of their comfort zone because the biggest comfort zone issue is the fear of becoming visible online. So it's a lot of scare like, oh, what will my friends think of this? Or what will my family think of this? Or what will my ex-colleagues think of this? And I do this sort of mindset coaching as well to say, do it. Next week, I want you to have a video up. Scary. People are like, oh God, do I really have to do this? And I push them like that. As the weeks and months progress, we work on all sorts of things: copywriting, content creating, planning ahead, structure. A lot of people, they find it, creatives especially, they find it hard to structure their week because they chase the glitter and they're easily distracted, they procrastinate, and they never get anything done. So I help them with that. So those 6 months are really valuable. I can't promise them 100 clients by the end of that. But by the end of that, they have a lot of clarity. They have more confidence that they can actually make it as an entrepreneur, and they know what to do. They no longer go like, oh, I don't know where to start. But they know what steps to take, because I give them a good, simple, actionable game plan that they can go back to all the time. So that's the 6 months one. I also have a 6 week, because not everybody wants or can commit to 6 months. So the 6 week one is a fast track program. And in that, we really focus on who's your ideal client, what is your marketing message, what platforms do you need to be on, is your content resonating with the right people, how can we improve that, and what steps are you going to take after these 6 weeks. So it's like a condensed program, if you like. And then for people who just feel completely overwhelmed and stuck and need a little bit of help here and now, I have a 90-minute power session. So that means a deep dive, intensive consultation with myself, again on Zoom, or I can do it in person as well. And that is tackling a particular issue that people struggle with, which could be social media, which could be just having a plan for the next 6 months to get them started. Or it could be just a complete overwhelm and mindset and confidence issues. And we come up with some tactics to break down that barrier.
It's interesting what you're saying, because it's basically you asking the right questions to try and get your creative to say, okay, this is what my plan is. Mm-hmm. Because they're in their little bubble, they're making, they're creating. If I want to take it to the next level, I need to define who is my customer, where do I need to go and find my customer, which are the platforms they're using for maybe their age, their demographic. So it's asking the right questions, which is huge. Once you've got those answers to the question, they might not actually have answers for all of those questions. They might have to, I'll come back to you in a week, I need to really think about this. Then it's setting up, this is what we need to do, putting it into small chunks, whether it's like this week you need to have written this, by this week you need to have looked around at just the different social media platforms and just see who's doing something similar, what's out there. And it's that accountability.
It is, and that's the biggest thing. And that's coming back to this trying to do everything by yourself on a shoestring budget. That's fine if you want to do that, but it'll take you a lot longer to get where you want to be. And investing in yourself is scary. It's going like, oh God, I don't even make enough money yet, and do I now need to spend money on a course, on training, on a coach? But it does help. I did it myself last year. I invested in a business coach, and it was very painful financially. It was like, oh gosh, this is this going to bring me what I want out of that? Every time I did something like that, it helped me grow, not just in terms of income, but mainly in terms of mindset and confidence and insights. Seeing things differently, understanding how things work, not keeping yourself so small anymore. It's that transformation, as well as knowing where to find the clients.
We are our own worst enemy sometimes, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We know what we want to do. I'm happy creating my jewellery, for example. I want to take it to the next level, but no, it's not for me. I'm scared of that. We are just talking ourselves out of
because we don't believe we can.
Yeah.
We don't believe we can actually earn money with it. And then it's like, people probably, they probably don't need it. They probably don't want to pay for that. And, who am I to kind of pretend that I'm sort of this amazing jewelry maker? I'll just do a little bit of this and offer it, when somebody asks about it, and it's that sort of keeping yourself small. And I'm guilty of that too, right? It's like I look online and Instagram is full of coaches And they're all like, I look at them and I go like, oh my goodness, they're earning like 10,000 a month, 50,000 a month. And oh, look, they're so successful. I mean, first of all, never believe anything that you see on Instagram, because half of it is just bigging themselves. Smoke and mirrors. But it's getting over that lack of self-belief and actually thinking like, well, I have just as much right as anybody else to give this a good go. And if it fails, it's not a failure. I've actually tried and I've learned. That failure is a stupid word, because failure is nothing but giving something a good go, learning lessons, and being somebody else by the end of it, being somebody who knows what to do next and how to do things better and trying again. So it's this fear of, oh, I won't be good enough. Well, right now, no, you're not. You don't have all the skills yet. You probably are not good enough to make enough money with your product, but it's nothing to do with your products or your skills. It's to do with how you are bringing it out into the world.
Great quote, and I don't know the quote exactly. And it's something along the lines of, we are never afraid of our darkness, we're afraid of our light. Which basically means we're afraid of how big we could be, or our passion. We are afraid of that success. We're like, oh no, it's okay for other people to be really, it's a very successful podcaster with, millions of subscribers, millions of downloads. I could never be that.
Yeah, no, it's just us telling us self-style.
Exactly, we are our own worst enemy. They started out at some point
just
with
like
one
us.
podcast.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they might be 2 million, but at the end of the day, we are afraid of our own success, and that's our mindset, isn't it?
It is, totally. Yeah, and that's, I would say, 99% of the population suffers from that. And it's always like, oh, well, no, it's not for me. And, what will people think if I put myself out there? And especially, I have American clients as well. They usually suffer less from that. It's the Europeans, especially, who are much more modest, keeping themselves small. Women, especially, thinking like, well, I'll just stick to what I know, and I just stick to what I've always done, and just sticking in my comfort zone, because what if suddenly I have to change my whole life, or I have to change everything because all of a sudden it becomes successful. I can't deal with that, and then I have to deal with taxes. And they go like, oh no, that's too overwhelming. I don't want to do that. Where actually, if you break it down on a piece of paper and say, okay, what are the fears? Is it, okay, the financial side of things, is that what's scary? How can we tackle that? Is it the taxes? What can we do? Can you find a good accountant? Is it maybe you can't deal with the amount of inquiries? What can you do? Can you hire somebody, a virtual assistant, to deal with the phone calls or the emails? Everything is solvable. There's a solution for everything. And what I also always say to people is, once they are making their first little bit of income, immediately try and invest it in a little bit of help, whether that is a bookkeeper, whether that is a social media helper, whether that is somebody who does the packaging for you if you sell jewelry. Because no successful entrepreneur has ever built their empire on their own. It's just not true. Nobody does it on their own. If you want to give it a good shot and you want to be successful, you've got to have support. And perhaps when you're first starting out, maybe that's just one day a week, one day a month. Maybe it's somebody who can help you. Maybe you can do something for each other, bartering. I'm a big fan of bartering as well. I did that when I first started out, I have a friend who's a photographer, and I coached her for 6 weeks, and in return she took my brand photos. It's like that sort of, you got to think outside the box as well.
That's brilliant. That is that's a win-win.
Yeah.
What you're saying here is that we are creating this catastrophe in our mind. Oh no, I can't do this, I don't know anything. When you break it down on paper, you don't know anything about social media. Let's just look at that. What do you know? Where do we think would be the right platform to put your items for your target? Let's break it down. But we don't. We just create this, oh no, my God, and your brain's exploding, and you're like, no, I'm just not going there. And before you've even started, because it is just so big, all I want to do is to sit and make my jewellery. I'm terrified of the social media, the marketing, the finance, etc., etc. Having somebody like you, let's just take a breath, let's stop, get a sheet of paper, let's look at one aspect, and let's just go through that one aspect. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is this, just have a look around on the internet, see what's out there. Number 2, find some websites that you like, their style, maybe that's the sort of photography you would like. Break it down.
Step by step. It doesn't all have to be done next week. You just make a plan and you say, okay, for the social media aspect, I need to do this, this and this. And I want to give myself a little bit of a deadline. So say by the 1st of January, I want to have this improved. Okay, give yourself some structure. Okay, in terms of bookkeeping, what's going well, what's going wrong? What do we need to do? Who do I ask for help? It's breaking it down. All of my clients, they come to me with a junkyard of ideas in their head and worries in their head. I'm very good, if I may say so, at summarizing, listening to somebody, dumping all of their worries and all of their thoughts on me. And then I go like, right, but actually this is what you're struggling with and this is what you need to do. And they go like, oh, yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Thank you.
Is somebody making sense of this ball of wool in your brain with all the tangles and the knots, spilling it all out, and then you, being a creative, understand this ball of wool, and then you understand the components of getting their product or service out there?
That's right. Yeah. And because I'm a creative myself, I can give them the tools and the platforms and the techniques and the language also in the way they present themselves on their website that appeals to an audience that is interested in what they offer. Whereas, the more corporate business coaches, they might not have a clue. They might come up with solutions and suggestions that are absolutely not relevant for a small business like that.
Because as you say, the world of the creative is very, very different to having a business where your aim is just to make as much money as you possibly can.
Yeah, and in a lot of the corporate businesses, there's not that passionate drive behind it. It's like, okay, we're selling this product because that's trending right now and that's what we're gonna make a lot of money with. Whereas a creative business is like, it comes from the heart.
You've got the emotional.
It's the emotional investment.
This is my baby.
This is my baby.
My drawing, my painting. Yeah.
I think as a creative business coach, I have that different take on it.
So we are sitting here in Valencia then, Nina. You're working with people globally as well. So if people want to work with you, you can do that online.
I do most of my work online. Yes, okay. I have most of my clients are in the UK or in the States. Some others around Europe. I do have some clients here in Spain as well. Not so many, but most of them are expats. Yeah.
It's been a fascinating conversation. I wasn't really sure where it was going to go because the world of the creative business, I don't know what that means. But now we've gone through it. To me, it's somebody understanding their creative brain, asking you the right questions, which you may not have the answers to. You may have to go away and think about it and come back. And then unraveling this panic in the brain. Let's step by step. How can you make time to do your creative work? How can you bring that into your normal daily routine so you're spending a little bit of time each week on it? Let's break down the marketing, the finances. You're just that, don't panic.
Yeah.
Let me understand who you are, what your product is, where you would like it to go, and then slowly but surely we'll go through each step. I'll give you a challenge to do or a task to do this week. We'll have a check-in, see what worked, what didn't, and then we can move forward.
That's right, yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, just go back to what I'm offering, because I work online mainly, but I am actually organizing an in-person workshop on the 29th of November here in Valencia for creative business owners who want a bit of help with that sort of thing. So I'm doing a workshop of 3 hours, and we would be looking at who your ideal client is, what your message is, and what kind of marketing plan you can set up for yourself. So it's very condensed, very practical. We would be doing exercises together. By the end of it, you walk away with something. So you make a little start.
And is there a plan to do that online as well?
Yeah, I'm planning to do that online as well. Yes, yeah. So I want to do it both, but I've just booked it in for as an in-person workshop to start off with. But I think it would work very well as an online version too.
Nina, it's been a delight. I'm just so fascinated by the world of creative people and actually getting their passion out and making money from their passion. Because when you look around, for example, on Etsy, there is some incredible stuff out there. Mm-hmm. There are such talented people. It just blows my mind. And the fact that there is somebody like you who can hold their hand, ask the right questions, unravel that ball of wool that's going around in their brain, give them the confidence and self-belief to, we can do this. We can do this together. Mm-hmm. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's been an absolute delight, Nina. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe on whatever platform you are using. It is free, and if you would like to tell your story, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.